This is a Pacific Energy Super 27 manufactured in October 2005. This is a leg model, and I'm going to go through as much of the stove as I can to help you understand everything you need to know about the stove. We're going to start in the back, which is to look at where the air inlet comes from. If I go around here, you'll see it's a leg model, as I mentioned, so it has what's called a leg adapter, which is like an air box underneath. So we're going to go take a look in the back there. So you can see there's an air inlet hole, which is a knockout, and there's also one optionally in the bottom that you could go straight down into the basement or crawl space. In this case, you can come out the back and you can go through the wall behind you. If you look at the front of the unit, I've removed the plate on the front of this unit so you can see I'm moving this lever from fully left, which is the start mode or maximum air inlet mode. It uncovers this large hole toward the front of the unit, and also you see up here there's a smaller hole back here, which is toward the front of the unit, and this goes straight up inside. So this forms two separate air inlets. One right here, this small hole going through a tube straight up, and we'll see where that goes in a minute. And then here's the large hole, which is covered and uncovered using that shutter. And now I'm going to take a look toward the back of the unit. And if we look back here, we'll see that this air shutter also attaches to a rod that opens and closes an air inlet door at the very back, and we'll also look at that. So there's a total of 3 different air inlets. And you also see here there's an ash dump area. I don't have this feature, it's just a metal plate right now. Okay, as I mentioned, there's 3 sources of air coming in from the bottom, from the door, the leg adapter, air inlet box. The air supply that you saw at the very back that was controlled by that long rod with the air plate, moving plate, that connects to this vertical tube, which comes up to the top here. And as you see, there's on this back shelf back here, there's a gasket that I put in place, and that's where the secondary air baffle system goes. So this is the secondary air supply coming up from the bottom of the stove up through the back up until that baffle. We'll see later where the baffle sits on that. You can see what that does. The other air inlet is through the large hole. It goes around the sides. The sides here have these welded in tubes, and these connect to what is actually you see a slot. There's this air inlet slot along the front of the unit that washes air down the door when the door is shut here. You can see the door, the gasket. The door gasket would mate to this top edge here, and the air inlet is just below it, washing air down the front. Next thing so that covers 2 of the air supplies. The last one left is the boost manifold air, and you can see here, if I can get this around, there's this boost manifold plate which has a bunch of holes in it. Let's see if I can get that. Okay, it's a little hard to do that with one hand, but here's the boost manifold. You see those holes face the back of the unit. It drops into place. There is that hole I mentioned, you see right here, comes up. It's toward the front of the unit, and it comes up through here. So as we talked about, there's that large 2.5-inch hole or so that feeds air up the sides to the front door wash, and then there's this added hole straight down through that is covered by this boost manifold unit piece. So that drops in. So that constant air supply through that 3/8 inch diameter hole or whatever that is, it feeds into this plate and feeds these holes here. And that gives you your third air supply. So there's a total of 3 air supplies. You can see here, this is a view of the ash door from the top, and ash opening rather. And I don't have the actual ash door assembly, the ash dump assembly. So this is just covered by a metal plate. So in this particular version, there's a full-size fire brick that drops over that and covers it. So now just quickly, I got these aftermarket pumice. You have to use the pumice fire bricks. You can't use the normal clay heavy fire bricks. There's these lightweight pumice bricks. And as you can see here, they're 1 1/4 inches by 4 1/2 inches by 9 inches. And there's 8 of them in the bottom, and they're all the same dimension except for the one in the back here in front of that secondary air tube. This one has to be cut a little shorter, and if you look at the manual, it will have the dimensions for these. But you know, I bought them on eBay. They were in sets of 6, so I got 3 of them as 18. So there's 4 of them on the side, left side, 4 of them on the right side, and there's 3 in the back, and they're all the same dimension, except for the one that's in front of the secondary air supply tube. And then this one here that drops over the ash dump, there's a different combination. There's 3 little ones, and I don't know exactly how they work, but these are the only ones that are different, are the ones that come out of here for the ash dump assembly, and the one in the back here in front of that tube. And then you'll see up on the sides, you'll see the side plates, and these stick down. The side plates drop into these hooks to keep them in place on the sides. And then you'll see also there is the piece of insulation that stuffs down in there behind these side plates. These side plates, everything is loose and comes out. So now you got a side plate on the left side, a side plate on the right side rather. You got a side plate on the left side. These are kind of warped. I tried to bend them. You can bend them with a wrench or hammer them and try to straighten them out, but they are very bendable. You can, if you want to fool with them long enough, you can do that. But you can see how this drops in behind these hooks, and the goal here, I guess, is to try to keep these fire bricks in place. The back one is welded in, that does not move. So if you do have to get replacements, you got a left one and a right one. That's all that you can replace. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to get this new baffle in here. This is the baffle assembly. This square hole in the back picks up that air supply in the back that we talked about a minute ago. There's a plate coming down here with a hole for a pin. And this baffle itself is a combination of, it's a sandwich of a lower piece, the bottom that you see there. There's a second piece above it, so it makes a little air chamber in the side there. So there's no insulation in the middle of this chamber. There's just air in the middle of this thing. And then there's a piece of insulation on the top of that, the upper part of the clamshell. And then there's a heat shield over the top of this. So when it's running, the air will come up, the exhaust gases will come up over the front of this plate, flow along the top, and then out through the flue. And this top plate and the insulation protects this thing. So you're going to have cool air coming up inside this chamber, and it escapes out these holes because you're pulling a vacuum with your flue gases going up and out, and that is providing the suction that provides the pressure difference in pressure across these holes that provides this flow of secondary air. So I'm going to try to get this baffle in place so we can look at it.